You know I've traveled near and far, see the shining sea. I've seen a lot of places and people that were nice to me. One place that's in my heart, and this is how I feel. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. She's nestled in the sandhills on a river called Fayetteville. Special to so many who proudly served our country here. She was named for Lafayette and known for cotton mills. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. Babe Ruth hit his first one, heard around the world. Sherman marched with the Union and burned the arsenal. Old Market House still standing, but stands for freedom's will. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. My all-American city, Fayetteville. Talking about my hometown, Fayetteville.
I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, June 25th, Fayetteville City Council meeting. This time we'll ask that Dr. Johnny Hunter of the Cliffdale Community Church will come forth for the invocation. Ask that all would stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance shortly thereafter.
Let those of us who pray you bow our heads at this moment. We're going to ask the Lord for a lot of blessings. Almighty God, we bring a number of blessings before you this day that we need from you. Please bless this meeting tonight to benefit the citizens of Fayetteville. Give the mayor and city council members the wisdom that are needed to solve any issue tonight that is brought up before them. Give them knowledge to be discerning with all matters of business. And actually bless the first responders for our well-being and safety of all residents. We pray that you would give us decisions that will be made that ensure the youth of the city are emotionally equipped, prepared for careers, and possess vision to be leaders in their generation as well as this current generation. Bless the elders in this city to be honored by the achievements in this chamber. And bless the staff that works behind the scenes. Bless them with the health and the strength they need. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Hunter. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself or your ministry or your church?
Oh, just a little thing. I'm the pastor of worship at Cliffdale Community Church. The church set on the hill at 7763 Cliffdale Road. And, of course, this Sunday I got a good hot sermon on me, so if you feel like coming by to visit us, please do. I'm going to be talking about the knock, the clock, and the lock.
All right. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Council, we have a very special ceremony tonight where we will minister the oath of office to our newest council member, Councilmember Dan Culleton, so him and his family. He will be sworn in tonight by Chief Superior Court Judge Ammons. So welcome, sir. So at this time, Mr. Culleton and Judge Ammons. Ms. Culleton and family.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I am Jim Ammons, but I bring greetings tonight from our Chief District Court Judge, Robert Steele, who Dan wanted to swear him in, and who Robert very much wanted to swear Dan in. A member of his family was taken ill unexpectedly and is hospitalized, and I would ask each of you to keep Judge Steele and his family in your prayers tonight. Who's going to hold the Bible? Can you hold it? It's an honor to do this. I appreciate very much. If you place your left hand on the Bible, left hand, your other left hand.
Big family.
Raise your right and repeat after me. I, Daniel Culleton,
I, Daniel Culleton,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and maintain
I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
as council member
as council member
for the city of Fayetteville,
for the city of Fayetteville,
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Let me be the first to congratulate you.
Paperwork are ready.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. As Judge Ammons already alluded to, Judge Steele was to swear me in tonight. However, his wife Meredith was unfortunately rushed to emergency room just a few hours ago. Those complications, the health issues that she's been dealing with. They're a private family, and they usually don't burden others with their troubles. And those that you know, the Steeles, also know the strength of their character, the size of their hearts, and more importantly than anything, the willingness to give. And therefore, they would not ask this, but I will for them. Keep the Steeles in your thoughts. Cover them in prayers as they go through this very difficult time. With that said, I want to thank Judge Ammons for coming on such short notice to do me the honor of swearing me in. And so thank you. I'm going to try to keep this short so that we can get on with doing the city's business. However, I would be remiss if I did not say a few words, not so much for myself, but for those residents of District 2. I want to thank my supporters who stood by me throughout this process, some of who showed incredible strength, fortitude, to stand up for what they believed was right, crossing traditional lines such as party and race. To put their city first, to put their district and community first. The people of District 2 have shown me how to lead by doing so. The people of District 2 deserve an ethical, and honest, and an effective representation, and I want to ensure them that they now have it. I also want to thank this council for their unity and their selflessness in keeping our city moving forward, especially during this difficult process. And so I said I would keep it short. So with that, God bless District 2, God bless this city, and God bless this great country that allows a little country farm boy from Ohio an opportunity to make a difference. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Cullerton, let's go to work. All right, thank you. Thank you to Councilman Cullerton and his family. Thank you, Judge, again for your participation in short notice. Council, we have a presentation that has been requested by Councilmember Dawkins. I'll yield to him.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back in March, we had a great project called Build a Better Haymount, and the leaders of that team are here. So I would ask Zan Monroe to come on up, Angie Hedgepath, and Eric Vitale, please. And Zan, the floor is yours. I know you've got a video you want to show our citizens, but thank you for all the efforts. And you also got some folks here with some great-looking T-shirts on, too.
Yeah, those were the folks that were out that day. Mr. Mayor, council members, thanks for the honor of being here this evening. In March of this year, March the 10th, we hosted an event called Haymount Better Block. And I have a PowerPoint somewhere. I don't know if we can get it up on the screens or not. But let me give you a little background on this event. And there we go. So I'm the CEO of the Longleaf Pine Realtors Association. We represent 1,850 licensed realtors in eastern North Carolina, another 200 businesses that affiliate with us. We constitute about 7,000 home sales a year, thousands of rentals, commercial sales, and land. And we have one overriding factor, and that is improving the quality of life for eastern North Carolina and Fayetteville. You, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, have the exact same mission. It's your job to help improve the quality of life. So we're all in this together. So when the City Planning Department called us last June and said, would you be willing to do a Better Block project, we jumped at the opportunity. They had the skills to apply for a grant from the National Association of Realtors to put this thing on. This team standing here, not me, these two, agreed to work on the project. And it arrived from the City Planning Department that said, let's take a look at Haymount and what Haymount could be just for one day. The Fayetteville Observer reported in September of 2017 that Fayetteville is the least walkable city of all the cities in the United States with more than 200,000 residents, the least walkable. Fayetteville ranked dead last in that study according to Walk Score Transportation and Walkability Improvement Services Company, and they presented their findings to this council in 2017. So we took a look at that that part of Fayetteville as how could we improve walkability and how could we improve bikeability and the movement of your citizens. Through a smart growth grant, $5,000 grant was issued. We got the money in town, and these two folks here undertook the project. Now, why Haymount? We've been working on downtown Fayetteville since forever. In the 70s, we built the Cross Creek Mall, and my Uncle Adrian said, at the time, he said, the downtown Fayetteville has now moved to the mall. And in his lifetime, as he would say, it'll never move back. And it didn't in his lifetime, but now it has. You have a viable downtown, a place to walk, a place to live, a place to work. And the connector between that great economic center and here is Haymount. So we took a look at the top of Haymount Hill and the existing conditions that were there. And I don't know if you can see in the pictures, but there is one crosswalk. And that one crosswalk leads you to an island that you can't get off of. You're in front of Smitty's Cleaners, and there you may stay. So it wasn't the city that took a look at this. It was the community. And I have learned from running organizations my whole life, every event needs a champion, and we came up with two. Angie Hedgepeth, our government affairs director at the Realtors Association, Eric Vitale, who works for FAMPO, the transportation kid. We put these two together. They went through I don't know how many meetings. Now, I was not involved. I'm the CEO. I got a big office. I hear the gnashing of teeth and the arguing over insurance and how are we going to pull this thing off for months. We went for 9 months meeting with the citizens, meeting with the businesses who thought it was going to be permanent changes in the citizens. And we met in the little theater. They met in the coffee shop. They met on the street. And the community said, here's what we want. We want to be able to park one time in Haymount and go to the theater, go to the restaurant, go to the post office, visit the Peach Man. How many of you have visited the Peach Man? Mm-hmm. Everybody, you know, you got to go, but you've got to move your car every time you do that. So the community created this, not us. And I thought it would be easier just to show it to you. 2 weeks before this thing started, I was in my office hearing them arguing over how to get porta potties and this and that and the other, and I thought if a couple of hundred people show up, I'm going to do something special for these folks. And we've got a video that'll show you what happened on March the 10th.
Better Block Fancy is a demonstration project to recreate an area for half a day to show what it could look like if it was more bicycle and more pedestrian friendly.
You know, as a city council member, I get a lot of calls from people talking about speeding along here, and they're trying to cross the roads because of all the shops around here, and it's dangerous.
People trying to cross the street, it's kind of like a game of Frogger.
I've been a part of the Cape Fear Regional Theater for many years, and we've always felt it's very dangerous to walk across the street in Haymount, and a lot of people park on this side of the street, and the theater's right behind you.
By reducing traffic lanes to create a barrier between automobiles and pedestrians, and adding bike lanes, crosswalks, benches, greenery, and a plaza, we can create a place that everyone can use and enjoy.
I think this is an awesome event. I think that it's showing our neighbors and residents around here and really the entire community of Fayetteville. We've always had kind of an untapped potential in this Haymount area with our commercial district especially. We have a lot of turnover with small business just because it's not walkable. It doesn't feel safe. You can't, you know, walk your dog or your baby, or there's no parking. There's, you know, so I think this is a great event to show people the potential of what we could offer Fayetteville.
We're known as the least walkable city in North Carolina, and here we are with people walking on the edges of the streets, on sidewalks, sidewalk vendors, music, food, everything that you could want. It's a good addition to the community. It's a good idea for the future.
Fayetteville actually has a lot to offer that a lot of people don't get to see on a regular basis. And I think events like this actually showcases those different things that we have to offer, different skills and different cultures.
I think anytime that people are out and community is being talked about and improvements being made just by people getting to know one another and having events where people get to share and have great experiences.
To make Haymount more of a destination place where one can just come down here, hop around from shop to shop, from restaurant to place, instead of having to worry so much about parking, crossing traffic.
We need to be able to bring more foot traffic to the small businesses in Fayetteville, and the only way that we're going to be able to do that is to make Fayetteville more walkable and bike friendly.
This is a big step, not only to slow down traffic and make it safer, but also help small business at the same time.
It definitely promotes a sense of safety, which I think is super important, and I think that this actual event today has helped at least illustrate for people what that could possibly look like and the safety that we could actually feel crossing the street.
It does need to be a little more pedestrian friendly, crosswalk, preferably with stoplights.
All the different things that we could do by just making some simple changes to redesign and improve the quality of life here.
I think we should have more events like this more often.
It'd be nice to see more of them happening in different parts of the city.
An event twice a year like this would be great.
I would love to see this happen every weekend in the Haymount community.
Let's do this every weekend. It'd be great.
I knew I was in trouble the morning of the event when I got a text from Angie about 7 a.m. who said, I'm not sure we have porta potties. So I beat feet over to the top of Haymount Hill, park my car, get out. I see a guy unloading trees that are like 12 feet tall. I'm thinking, what have we done? And I'm standing there. He goes, where's Angie Hedgepeth? Because I don't know where to put the trees. I'm like, I don't know where to put the trees. And this guy comes riding down the street on a bicycle, and as he goes by, he goes, Angie Hedgepeth will be here at 8:30. Everybody knew this event was going to happen. So 2,400 people showed up. Biggest traffic jam we've ever seen going up the top of Haymount Hill. My son, a week later, is fussing at me because he didn't get invited. He didn't know that it was going to happen. 2,400 people packed the place. And other people have taken notice. The National Association of Realtors has picked up this project. They have highlighted it on their website. They have written a big article in their trade magazine that goes out to 1.2 million people in the United States. The city of Rocky Mount was here a week ago. They sent their staff down to see what we had done. These two put them in our conference room, showed them all the documentation, gave them everything they needed, and then we went to the top of Haymount Hill, parked our car, and attempted to cross, which was like leading ducks across a road in the middle of the day. But we fed them lunch, and then we froggered them back across to their car, and they're going to run a project out of Rocky Mount. Here's what the community, when we surveyed them, said: give us crosswalks. The community said, give us some bike lanes and give us some landscaping. We also asked the community, if we did it again, would you like to see that? And the 95% of them said, absolutely. So we said, where? And this is their list: Murchison Road at Fayetteville State, Hope Mills, Rowan Street, Ramsey Street, Massey Hill. I'm going to volunteer these two to do it again. Mr. Mayor, Council, together we're improving the city of Fayetteville one crosswalk at a time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Zan and Eric and Angie and all the supporters that came out, but also those that helped to make this happen. We do need to do the same thing on Murchison Road, and then we need to look at other areas of our city. So, and Mr. City Manager, I do hope you are seeing what the citizens want, Mr. City Manager.
All right.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Dawkins. Thank you all. That was a great presentation, connecting our community together. So great work. Moving right along, Council, I will defer to Council Member Jensen, FCYC member announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we have Raven, and Raven is going to be a rising senior, and she is taking classes at FTCC this upcoming year, and I think you did some last year too, correct? And we're going to let Raven started the youth council this year, right? Well, I should say last year. And Raven is a part of our family in a way. She's a really cool mom.
Okay, so my name is Raven Mustard. This is my second year on the Youth Council. And for the 2018-2019 year, I've been selected the secretary for our Youth Council. I've also been selected the State Youth Council secretary, so the state of North Carolina, so all of the youth councils over North Carolina. I really enjoy the Youth Council. Right now we're working on recruiting new members and planning our 2018-2019 year. And we just want to say thank you for you guys' collaboration, and we look forward to doing more things with you guys this year.
Right.
Raven is also Councilwoman Waddell's daughter.
We kind of figured that. All right.
Mayor, I do have an announcement, if that's okay. I just wanted to let everybody know, if anybody has heard about the Inspire a Love of Reading, it's the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I'm just going to throw it out there that you can go to ccpfc.org/Dolly, and it is for children. I think it's 5 and under, that they will get a free book every month in the mail if you sign up. It is free, and they need people to participate. So again, that's ccpfc.org/Dolly.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. Welcome, madam. Moving right along to new planning and zoning manager announcement. Mr. Newton, or Mr. Hewitt, or Mr. Reinstein.
Good afternoon or evening, Mayor, members of Council. I am pleased to introduce the newest addition to our Planning or Development Services Department, our new Planning and Zoning Manager, Taurus Freeman. Where's Taurus? Is right there. And Taurus comes to us with over 20 years of planning experience, most recently worked in Abilene, Texas, and also in other cities in Texas and in Georgia. I'd like to... I think I've stolen.
So is there anything else you'd like me to say before I introduce Taurus?
Sorry, yeah. Why don't you introduce Taurus?
Ladies and gents, Taurus Freeman. Taurus, tell them just a minute of yourself.
Everybody's got a role, Mr. Newton.
Thank you, Taurus Freeman. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to working with you all as well as the citizens of the city of Fayetteville.
Welcome, sir. Thank you, guys. Right. Mr. Manager, you have some other important information for us.
Yes, sir. Recently, as you know, we bid farewell to Jane Starling, who went to become the town clerk of Hope Mills. Thankfully, Pam has done an outstanding job in rounding out her staff, so much in fact that we are very pleased to announce that Jennifer Ayers has now been named the deputy city clerk. This caps an amazing 3 years that Miss Ayer has had with our organization. Earlier this year as well, she was recognized as being a certified municipal clerk as well with the Clerks Association. And so she has hit the ground running in her 2 days? 2 days since the announcement on Friday. So again, Mayor, congratulations to Mrs. Ayer.
Congratulations, Ms. Jennifer. Jennifer has the impossible task of putting up with 10 of us, so she is well equipped for this job.
That was a great job.
Big shoes to fill, Ms. Pam, Ms. Jennifer. All right. Also, Mr. Hewitt, you have another announcement?
Yes, sir. For that, I would ask Chief Major to come forward and introduce some of our special guests.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council, and thank you for allowing me a moment of your time tonight. Back in April, we embarked on a journey to fill our 2018 Academy, which started on June 4th with new recruits. And we added a different twist this time. We asked members from our community to actually sit in on the interview board. So we had 2 interview panels that consisted of 2 from the fire department and 2 panelists from our community for 2 separate panels. And we rotated around within those panels. But I wanted to recognize those members from our community who assisted us in putting together a fine group of young men for our 2018 Academy. And this begged for their time. We actually interviewed 62 people over a total of 5 full days. So to ask members from the community to commit 40 hours of their day is, that's a lot to ask for. So we thought it fitting to introduce them and thank them formally. So all except one, Mr. Rodriguez, Miguel Rodriguez is in Texas. He couldn't be here tonight. But tonight we do have Mr. Marvin Garvin, if you'll stand. Miss Althea Gwynn. And Miss Brenda Handelman. And they worked along with Deputy Chief Hugh Sifford, just raise your hand, Lieutenant Garrett Rogerson, and firefighter Chelsea McKenna, who couldn't be here tonight. But we want to thank you for your service, for your assistance, and for helping us pick a fine group. And this is their first time actually seeing the Academy. This is their first time having the opportunity to meet the Academy that you chose. So if class of 2018 would please stand.
Right.
So actually, they're just, 3 weeks in? You can have a seat. 3 weeks in, they started June 4th. We anticipated hiring 22 4 declined job offers, and just last week we lost a candidate. But still a fine group of men, and we're looking for big things out from these people. Thank you.
All right. Welcome, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hewitt, Chief Majors. Go to Councilmember Larry Wright for a very brief announcement.
Mr. Mayor made sure to say it was brief. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2018 summer air conditioning and fan drive. It's hard to believe that there are people in our city that do not have adequate air in their homes. Some don't have fans, senior citizens, young children, families with young kids. And every year we do a fan drive and a window unit air conditioning drive. This drive will take place on June 26, which is tomorrow, from 10 to 2 at the parking lot of Lowe's on Skyboro Road, right behind the Chick-fil-A. All donations will be greatly appreciated to help those in need. You might contact myself at 494-8274 or Pastor David L. Murphy, 910-229-1572. This also is sponsored by Foxy 99 that will be on site and 107.7 Jam that is sponsoring with the faith community this fan drive, which is so very important. You know, we're having a heat wave that's going on in our community in the last couple of weeks. So we thank you if you would come out to donate a fan or a window air conditioner on tomorrow from 10 to 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, sir.
Can we have Ms. Tammy Lawrence from Habitat? Is she still? Oh, there you go. Mr. Lawrence, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council representatives. It's so good to be here. I'm actually here to recognize one of your esteemed colleagues and peers on the City Council who has volunteered with Habitat for Humanity in the B Street area, as well as one of your department heads in economic and community development, who also volunteered in the B Street area to do some home building. Before I get started, I'd like to ask Deborah McKinnon, who is the homeowner on the home that they worked on, to come and join me to present these two photographs of some of the hard work. So Kathy, would you please come forward? And Cindy Blott, would you mind coming up here, please? Every year, Habitat for Humanity does something called Women Build, and we look for women leaders in our community that want to be a part of building homes in this area. This year, we were working in the B Street area, where Mrs. McKinnon and her son Amar are going to be moving, along with 6 other families. And the home that we worked on in about 93-degree weather was difficult work, but it was led by these wonderful leaders in this community. And I just want to say what that means to us to see people that are making decisions, that are leading in this community, that are absolutely boots on the ground with the families that live here. And maybe it's not Kathy's district, but it didn't matter. She was still out there. And after they were finished working in the area, she and Cindy both walked the B Street area to look at the work that had been done in the last 3 years. And they say there's no limit to what women can do when they put their minds together. So it's going to be great to see what's going to happen in the next few years. But this is for you, Kathy. Thank you for working with us. We really appreciate it. I know. Yeah, thank you. And Cindy, welcome to Fayetteville. Thank you. And thank you for hitting the ground running with Habitat for Humanity. This is you and your team in community development.
Huh? All right.
I have one more presentation. We also had a fire. Oh, you want the picture? Oh, sorry. We also had a fire and police competition build that we do every year. And I'd like to ask Chief Ben Major to come forward. And is it Station 1? Station 1. So this was a very heated competition. Gina Hawkins is still in the room, and it was a very hot day. She's still hot from it. 97 degrees. And I want to just say a little bit about Chief Major and Chief Hawkins. They were down there in their full uniforms. 2 more great leaders that are out there leading by example. They worked all day long, didn't stop. They were right there with the rest of their team. And at the end of the day, it was very close, very, very close, but the fire department won again for the 2nd year in the row.
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give them all a round of applause for great work that you're doing for our community. All right, moving right along, Council. Item 5.0 is the approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion to do so at this time.
So be it, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Wright, a second by Councilmember Art for the approval of the agenda. This question? Oh, yeah, that's a vote? Oh, you're ready to go, huh? All right, Council, we'll look to you for votes. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. All right. Item 6.0 is the consent agenda. Council, I just had a few questions regarding item 6.02, so I'll ask that would be pulled. I see lights from Councilmember Hare.
Yes, Mayor. I will also ask for item 6.019 to be pull.
Okay, 6.019. Okay, Councilmember Cullerton and Crisp, in that order.
I'd like to also pull item 6.015 just for clarification purposes.
Okay, 6.015. Okay, Councilmember Crisp.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'd like to pull 6.013 for an up or down vote.
6.013. All right, so we need to wrap all of those changes up in a motion and then approve the other consent items. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 6.02, 6.013, 6.015, and 6.019.
There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Moan to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions that were mentioned. Is there a second?
So moved, sir.
There's a second by Councilmember Hare. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I look to you for your votes for approval of consent with those exceptions. Madam Clerk, that is 9-1. Those voting in favor of the approval of the consent: Councilmember Crisp, Cullington, Arp, Wright, Colvin, Moan, Jensen, Hare, and Dawkins. Those voting against, Councilmember Waddell. Motion carries. Item 6.02, Mr. Bauer. Thank you, and Council, I certainly would not like to belabor this, but just point of clarity, we had some preliminary discussion before tonight's meeting. There are two senior centers that were included in the Parks and Rec bond, and I know that the seniors are a very important part of our population, and we wanted to make sure that we address both senior needs on the east and the west part of the city. The one that is for discussion tonight, both were budgeted around $5 million. Tonight, you're asking for an additional $2 million, which will put the total cost of that project at $7 million. And so we had our discussion. The actual construction was roughly $5.5 million, which with inflation, that's reasonable. But the rest of it was site work, and I had some concerns that I wanted to talk to you about that, because if we have $7 million on West Fayetteville, it's possible that there will be $2 million or better short on East Senior Center whenever that time comes. So the site work, this land was leased to us by the state. I remember that portion of it. Have we exhausted all options for land usage that didn't require $2 million worth of preparation?
With your permission, sir, for the audience, I'm going to step back a little bit and explain what's before the council tonight. What you have before you is a contract for construction with Metcon. Construction there, the construction manager at risk firm that we've been working with through the pre-construction phase. So this is the terms and conditions for that contract, for that project. Similar to the construction manager at risk project that we put together for the stadium, this does not fix a construction cost. It sets a target. The current target is 5.5 for construction, and then a total of $7 million for the project. The difference between the 5.5 and the 7 is what we call soft costs. So that's costs for design, permitting, special inspections, FF&Es, that's fixtures and equipment, so basically all the stuff that goes into the facility itself. So the site costs are actually inside the $5.5 million. And I can probably try to break that out here for you a second in the information I have in front of me. But that's the difference between the 5.5 and the 7. Also, you have before you is a CPOA, a project ordinance amendment to change our current $5 million, which we've previously budgeted, to $7 million. This is consistent with the presentation that was given to council earlier this month during a work session where you approved the schematic design and the schematic design, which is currently estimated at a total cost, including soft costs, of $7 million, and which will allow us to move forward with this contract. So that's the issue before you. So you asked me about whether we've looked at other sites, and the answer to that, as far as I know, is no. This is the site that we've been working on acquiring the right to use this since the bond passed. It took us quite a while to get this lease in place in order to get this land basically for free from the state. We do have development costs associated with bringing utilities to the site, bringing in a road to the site, and putting in infrastructure such as stormwater and a parking lot. Those costs are similar to any other undeveloped site, but we have not looked at other locations.
Okay, thank you. And so, in the event that, I know we had a discussion during our work session about the feasibility information that came back from Fayetteville State with a possible partnership on the East Senior Center. And I know there was concern that there was more information needed because the estimated cost to that was what? Do you remember right off?
For the total project?
For the portion that we would be required to fund.
Well, what we did the study based on was the $5 million budget. We did look at if we'd add an extra $500,000, how much additional square footage that would get us. But we used the $5 million from us and then the $5 million from Fayetteville State as the basis for our exploration.
So roughly $5 million was estimated there. So likely, if it's consistent with this one, it would be approximately $1 million to $2 million. I know some of this is soft costs and some is land prep. Did you have that breakdown?
Just a second, I can take a look at that real quick. So land development costs. Let's see here, just a second. I think that, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time finding it right here, so I'm going to have to pull off the top of my head, and I apologize for that. But my understanding is that most of the site work was somewhere in the area of about $500,000. Now, the site that we're talking about for Fayetteville State, it was actually about 1.3 was our initial estimate for the site at Fayetteville State, because that site actually is partially in the floodplain and requires a lot more movement of dirt. The site not being in the floodplain doesn't require as much movement of dirt. In fact, one of the things we did for this site was relocate the building in a place where we didn't have to move so much soil as part of the value engineering process for this project. So my last look was that it was actually just over $400,000, just under $500,000 was our estimate for the initial grubbing site work. And then, of course, about another $800,000, I think, for the parking lot. But I can get those exact numbers for you if you'd like. I just don't have them right in front of me.
Okay, all right. Those were my concerns. So I guess we will take that for an up and down vote. I did ask for it to be pulled, council, just for further explanation. I just wanted to make sure that we were given comparable projects when the time comes for the East Senior Center. But I can't make the motion, but I see lights. Councilmember Cullington.
Where is the extra $2 million coming from?
We actually put a proposed revision to the funding model for the Parks Bond projects before the council at the same time we considered this, but it was tabled at that time. So we have not brought back a revision to that funding plan to the council. So that's something we'll have to bring back to you and take a look at where we can move projects or find additional funding.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Jensen. I'm ready for you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a motion that we approve the contract with Metcom for the Western Senior Center construction and adoption of capital project ordinance amendment 2018-70.
Second.
There's a motion by Chairman of Parks and Rec, Councilmember Jensen, second by Councilmember Crisp. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All right, Council, look to you for action. Madam Clerk, that is 9-1. Those voting in favor, Councilmember Crisp, Arp, Wright, Colvin, Moan, Jensen, Hare, Dawkins, and Waddell. Now, those voting against, Councilmember Cullington. Motion carries. Right. Item 6.013, Councilmember Crisp. Your microphone on, Councilmember Crisp.
What we're talking about. 6.013 is a proposal to set a filing fee for municipal elections. And what I had proposed is that the filing fee to run for city council be 1% of whatever the salary is. That is to say, citizens, that if the salary is $17,000, a person would have to pay $170 to file to run for city council. And likewise, if the mayor's salary was $100,000, they'd have to pay $1,000 to run for mayor. No, it would certainly not be that. But when I made this suggestion and when we had the consensus vote in the work session, I was hopeful that we would be able to take that decision to the citizens, for them to make that decision in the form of a referendum, along with the referendum that we're going to talk about later on 4-year terms. I since found out that we cannot do this by referendum, but 10 people sitting before you tonight can legislate and raise those fees. I am not comfortable with that. I am but one person. I brought the suggestion to council. I just feel that that's a decision that ought to be vetted through the citizens of this city. I'm just not comfortable raising those fees, 10 people here, that affects 209,000+ people in the city of Fayetteville. Having said that, Mr. Mayor, I move to deny the increase in the filing fees for municipal elections.
I second.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Chris, for that as a motion. Second by Councilmember Waddell. I think Councilmember Jensen has discussion.
I do. I have a question, and I don't know who can answer this question. When is the last time fees were raised?
I saw that, but I can't remember what it was. It's been a long time.
Not the whole time I've served.
Yeah.
And you've been on council for how many years?
17. Not the time.
Were we incorporated?
So, I'm just saying it hasn't changed since I've served. It's been, what, $24, I think? Something like that.
So we are talking about a fee that probably has not been raised in the past 20 years?
Yeah, more than
40 years? I cannot support us not raising the fee. I understand what you're saying, and maybe that you feel that 1% is too much, but we make decisions every day that affect 200,000 people, and if we don't change the fee, it's never going to get changed because we can't take it to the people, is what we've just heard. So I cannot support that, but I am willing to go back and say, if you feel that 1% is too much, I am willing to have the discussion.
Well, that's a great point, and I did have something to add to that. Councilmember Wright, I'll defer to you, sir.
Yes, sir. I agree that the fees need to be raised. We've been talking about this since I came on in 13, how that the position of council is one of probably the most important positions of an elected official in the city for policy making for the future of the city. With what we have as a filing fee, we understand, the democratic way, but because of the importance of this position and that we haven't raised fees for so long, in requiring people to be serious about filing and not just 15 minutes of fame or whatever, that the process would be done decent and in the area of, equality and even in the democratic way. So I just feel that for a long time this has been a discussion, and when I've gone to the National League of Cities conferences across the country, I've talked to council people, mayors of like minds, and all of their fees are competitive. And when you talk about the fee that we have, they laugh. They go, really? So I've always thought that something needed to be done. So this is a great time. And I understand Councilman Bill Chris' position, given the council to make that decision, but that's why we're voted in to make those hard decisions, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilmember Wright. I did have a point, and I saw the Mayor Pro Tem put a light up. Elections cost, and they cost the taxpayers' money. So these fees are not covering the cost. It's around $70,000 to $80,000 every city election or more. Yeah, that the taxpayers, you are paying for this. Now, I would be in favor. I want to certainly be conscious, and I think the Mayor Pro Tem is going to hit one of the points I have, that each year if the council's rate changes, if it's given 2%, like any other city employee, then that amount fluctuates. So we may need to put some stability to that amount. But the other thing that I'm concerned with is every city election, we complain about turnout, but during the early period, everybody has to drive to one location. So if you live in West Fayetteville, you have to drive to Fountainhead Drive to vote. If we're going to require extra money, I would ask that the council would consider opening up additional sites, that we want to ask people to participate in the process. So let's use the additional money to pay for the additional sites. If you live in District 8, you shouldn't have to drive to downtown Fayetteville to vote. You should be able to vote in District 8 or at least close to your residence. So maybe if the council member Crisp and Waddell would consider us bringing this back to a work session, since we're not on the same time constraints as if it was a referendum, to put some structure to the fee and put some policy in place to open up more voting sites, to raise the because right now we ask for people to vote in our city elections and we get about 8 to 10%. You know, we definitely want to see more people participate. So that's just a consideration. There's a motion on the floor, but that's my 2 cents. Councilmember Jensen and then Mo.
That is a great point, and I was going to say a figure out, but I think if we are looking to bring in more precincts during early voting, I think that we need to take it back to a work session and talk about the effect of that. And I think that's a great idea, but you know, we might need to stay at the 1%, but I think that the voters would appreciate that. So I guess, do I ask?
We're discussing, so I guess until he withdraws the motion, I see his light, so I'll see where it goes. I've got Councilmember Crisp.
Mr. Mayor, if hearing the logic from council members, if the council is amenable, I would withdraw the motion if Councilman Waddell will withdraw her second, and then I would substitute the motion to say that a move to refer this back to a work session for the council.
Thank you. You amenable to that, ma'am? Okay. All right. So this is a motion to table, send back to a work session?
Table, well, not a motion to refer this item back to a work session.
Okay. All right. So that's a motion by Councilmember Crisp. There's a second by Councilmember Wright. Okay. Well, I think we'll give it to Councilmember Cullerton. We'll put you to work, sir. So a second to Councilmember Cullerton to refer this back to a work session. All right, Council, any discussion on the motion? I'll look to you for action. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. The motion carries. So, Mr. Manager, if you can get that on a upcoming schedule when we return in August, we would appreciate it. All right. Item 6.015, Councilmember Cullerton.
Yes, I wanted to have just some discussion for clarity on this. What I wanted to make clear on this was that yeah, I might be talking too. This was an extension of the Cape Fear River Trail, and this is going to require some funds of $1 million. And I wanted to make clear to the constituents of District 2, especially where this is going in, that these funds are not coming out of any of the monies that were already allotted to them or for the Park and Rec bond. And in fact, this was coming from NCDOT funds, a grant of $1 million that were being given for this.
Thank you. Mr. Bauer?
That's absolutely true. What you're approving tonight is a grant agreement with NCDOT to accept $1 million coming from the state that's being administered by NCDOT to assist us with what we're calling Project C, which is the gap currently over the CSX right-of-way between the trail that's already been developed and on both sides of it, and also to extend that under 301 where the bridge was recently completed to get to the Cape Fear for the Botanical Gardens. So hopefully this will get us all the way through that. But again, absolutely true. State funds, no match. just to follow their procedures.
And with that, I would make a motion to approve item 6.015, a resolution authorizing the sixth supplemental municipal agreement with North Carolina Department of Transportation, NCDOT, for the Cape Fear River Trail and Capital Project Ordinance Amendment 2018-67.
Thank you. There's a motion by Councilmember Culleton. There's a second by Councilmember Dawkins. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, look to you for your votes. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Item 6.018. Who pulled that item? 19, my apologies. 6.019. Councilmember Hare?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you. And City Council, per our and senior staff, per our discussion upstairs concerning the resolution to authorize to convey our city-owned property over to the North Carolina Civil War and Reconstruction History Center. There were so many questions that came up upstairs. A part of this resolution is allotting or conveying over 17 lots. And one of my concerns was there is a proposed projected amount of 7.5 mil from the City Council. And one of my questions was, well, what was the value of the land, and could there be a deduction from the value of the land from the 7.5 mil? And of course, after my discussion, and many of you somewhat had some of the same concerns, so I thought that I would pull this item and make a new motion for this item.
Thank you, Councilmember Hare, and I think that
if you would allow Councilmember Hare, got some language based on you've got
already given it to me.
Okay, you ready to?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
All right,
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Hare, I'll move to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion that we authorize the conveyance of the city property, the North Carolina Civil War and Reconstruction History Center, as described in the resolution, with the following additions. Staff to obtain an appraisal of the parcels to be conveyed. Staff discuss with the NCCW RHC Foundation that the land value conveyed be credited toward the city's anticipated 7.5 million contribution towards this project, and that staff report back to us August or September with appraisal values and draft amended resolution for support.
Thank you. There's a motion by Councilmember Hare. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Crisp. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Manager?
We fighting over here, I'm sorry.
Don't fight, please.
Mr. Mayor, wasn't clear whether the council planned to make one motion or two motions to include the authorization of the conveyance of Festival Park Plaza.
Yeah, if we, yeah, we'll do two motions if that pleases, since we had amendments to this one. All right, so council, we have the motion that was stated by Councilmember Hare. We'll come back to the second half of this item. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, council, look to you for action. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Motion carries. All right, so we also need a motion for the Festival Park portion. Council, I'll look to you for.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
I would move that we accept a resolution, that we approve a resolution to ratify the conveyance of real property, Festival Park Plaza at 225 Ray Avenue, LLC, to the Prince Charles Holding. That is my motion.
There's a motion by Councilmember Crisp, second by Councilmember Waddell. Any discussion on the motion? All right, council, look to you for the approval of the resolution concerning Festival Park. Are you voting, Mr. Manager? Go ahead, sir. You had something to add to this?
Just a technical correction. I believe Councilmember Chris approved the conveyance to the Prince Charles, and it should be to 225 Ray Avenue, LLC.
Okay. All right, council, we'll revote. Can you restate that?
holding off.
The conveyance should be to 225 Ray Avenue, LLC.
Let me restate my motion, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I move to approve a resolution to ratify the conveyance of real property Festival Park Plaza to 225 Ray Avenue, LLC.
Okay, an amended motion by Councilmember Chris with the language corrections, and second by Councilmember Waddell. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I'll look to you for action. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Ms. Attorney, is your light working? Because I see you're pushing the manager's light. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
My light is working. The manager is just pushing his button, and we fighting about who gonna speak.
All right. You all be nice. All right. So I think that is the last of the items that were pulled for separate action. This time we'll move into the public hearings. Public hearings. Individuals desiring to speak at public hearings must have signed up to speak with the city clerk by name and address before 7 p.m. this evening. 15 minutes will be allowed for each side of the issue at the public hearing. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each unless by a previous arrangement a single spokesperson is designated, in which case the spokesperson may use the entire 15 minutes. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, clearly state your name and address for the record. You may then address the city council. When the light changes from green to amber, you have 30 seconds remaining. At the end of your allotted time, the timer will ring. At this time, Mr. Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The first case we have up is a special use permit application. So if we could get any of the speakers who have signed up for this case to meet at our clerk to be sworn in.
Mr. Mayor, we have no speakers for this item.
Great. Right, Mr. Harmon, it's on you, sir.
Thank you, sir. This request is for special.
Yeah. So we'll get the formalities out of the way. So at this time, we'll open and close the public hearing. Mr. Harmon?
This is a special use permit request. It's to allow outdoor display, storage, and bed liner installations on a property at 6324 Rayford Road. It's at the intersection of Rayford and Little Drive. The property is a little bit unusual because it is a split zoned property. Abutting Rayford Road, the southern portion of the property is zoned commercially, and then the northern part of the property is zoned residentially. And you'll see in a moment there is a fence dividing those. Our land use plan does call for heavy commercial throughout that corridor. These are a few photos just of the property as it sits now. This property is commercial. It's been commercial for a number of years now. It's had a couple of different car lots and some other businesses on this property over the last few years. This is the fence that I mentioned a moment ago that does separate the residential and commercial sides of this property. Just a little photo down Little Drive. For any of you who were on City Council a few years ago, when OK Cars was the tenant, they did try to get the entire property rezoned to commercial. That was turned down by City Council at that time. And at that time, we had quite a few of the neighbors on Little Drive who came out in opposition as well. We've had a few of them call in on this one, but none, as you see, came tonight, and none came to the zoning commission meeting. This is a photo from 2017 when OK Cars was still in business. You can see they had quite a few cars on the lot there. Plus, they were doing stereo installations and some other things inside the building as well. And that was one of the big opposition things from the surrounding owners. What Leonard is planning to do, and that the applicant here is Leonard, they are looking, I know they've already got one place here in town. They're looking to open another location. Here in the back of the lot, this is that 6-foot privacy fence we looked at a moment ago. Here along that, they will be selling the mini storage buildings like people put in their backyards. And then here on the sides, these are trailers that they will sell as well. And then inside the building, they will do some of the stuff you typically think of with Leonard. They do the truck bed liners, that kind of thing. And then here's Rayford Road to your left and Little Drive to the bottom of the page. Just another photo of what it looked like a little bit when OK Cars was there, and then kind of a frontal view of what this would look like basically from Rayford Road if approved. Conditions of this, of course, as always, that compliance with that site plan that you just saw, and final approval and review of TRC, and that they maintain that privacy fence to the north that separates the commercial and residential uses. Zoning Commission and staff both recommend approval. The proposal is in keeping, we feel, with the surrounding properties. Proposal meets all of the applicable standards of the city. Those conditions that I just mentioned, they do feel the proposal meets all 8 findings of fact required. The land use plan calls for heavy commercial on this part of the property. And then this is also a reuse of a currently vacant commercial property. That concludes the staff report at this time.
Do have a couple questions, Mr. Harmon. Councilmember Hare.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Harmon, if you, keep going, please. Go to the next. Continue. Right there. How much land does this property own on the opposite side of the privacy fence? Is that their property line there, or are they on the other side too?
They are on the other side too. Again, this property is split zoned, so half of it is residential, half of it's commercial.
Okay, now, so directly behind the woods of the privacy fence that we see here are residential homes, or is residential zone?
There is a residential home on the other side of this that is on the same property with this, but it is, yes.
Mm-hmm. But
it's zoned residentially.
It's zoned residential. This is where I'm headed, Council, that I've always had a concern with. I know we go forward with having the privacy fence, and we always consider the privacy fence as the buffer, as enough of buffer. But on the other side, we do have residents, but I was hoping that we could also add another condition, let me just go what I'm saying, that we could add to additional condition that we do not allow, it's a particular buffing that we have that extends more undeveloped than the norm. We've discussed it. I can't think what we call that.
If they were building, if these were 2 separate pieces of property, yes, and they were building this new, with that privacy fence, they would be required to have the 6-foot privacy fence plus a 10-foot landscaping strip. They'd have to meet our Type D buffer requirements.
So are you saying then I really shouldn't have a concern tonight?
Well, I'm saying that's what they would have to do if this were a new project.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
And it will have to go through the TRC as they get approval for this.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure that's something we'll be discussing in the UDO committee. So, okay, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chris.
Mr. Mayor, let me give you council some history on this. It's a split zoning, and the reason is very simple. Previous councils, we did some overlays, and in those overlays, we said that we would not go more than 2 deep for clarity. Owen Drive, not Owen Drive, Village Drive is one, where they're building medical buildings and all of that. Right. 2 deep so as not to encroach too much on residential properties. Now, at the time the owners brought this to us for rezoning, there were some serious questions about the answers that we were given. You saw the size of that lot, and we were told they were selling like 300 cars a month. We were also told that they had an a number of people working there that was very, very questionable, all right? But we did not want further encroachment into the neighborhood there, and so that's why the zoning request was denied. And that's why there's still residential back there. But with my experience in the car business, they weren't selling 300 cars a month, Mr. Mayor, nor did they have the number of people working there that they said they had. That was a small used car business. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Chris. Councilmember Cullington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you go back to the slides, pictures? Next. There. This picture is indicating that that fence is a privacy buffer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Who owns that fence?
So again, this is all on one piece of property. So if we back up to here, you see this, what's outlined in yellow is one big piece of property. The zoning line splits this piece of property right through here, and that's where that fence is.
Okay. So if we allowed this, then that second back piece of property, what would be the buffer?
That fence would still be the buffer for that.
And who owns that fence? That property owner or the resident?
The same owner who owns this building and this property owns that property. It's all one big property, just two different zoning districts.
Okay. All right, thank you. And also, the site plan, I know you said that they would have to adhere to that. My concern is that, does that also dictate the orientation that they're going to have their goods, and specifically the sheds, that will be maintained on that back property line?
Yes, that they would be as far back as possible so they won't be as visible from Rayford Road.
Right. We don't want the situations where we have that along.
Exactly. That's why they would be held to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the new layout or the new special permit, because I remember 2 years ago when we voted this other one down, and I asked a question in the work session. I feel that the residents that live in the back of the neighborhood behind this are in a better situation now than they were when the car dealership was there. So they're really not having an issue with this because the cars were blocking the road, and the fence is still going to be there. They're just going to have a lot less traffic, and I feel a lot less people coming in and out. So it's basically a win-win for the neighborhood, and we're not encroaching on them. Is that correct in what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. I just wanted the audience out there to understand that it's a better situation now than it was 2 years ago when they were asking for us to move it further.
Which probably says why we didn't have any speakers.
Exactly. So I was trying to answer the question.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my district, and I remember very clearly the problem we had with OK Cars. I was called by residents. Matter of fact, I visited every home on that street, if you remember, and we were able to get that taken care of where they didn't extend. So the properties behind the wooden fence, there are two separate lots that will be maintained as residential. Is that correct?
They're still, again, part of that main property, but yeah, they'll still be maintained.
The zoning is residential.
Not changing one bit. That will be residential. This will not affect that residential area.
And I feel pretty good about the business, the type of business there now, because there won't be any noise. A lot of the problem was they were fixing on cars, radios were playing at night, and the residents was very upset. And so I feel pretty good about the situation now. And Mr. Mayor, if I will, I would recommend the issuing of a special use permit to allow outdoor display storage and bed linings installations by Leonard's Building and Truck Association. I make a motion.
Second.
Okay. So there's a motion by Councilmember Wright to approve the special use permit as presented. There's a second by Councilmember Art. Any
Yes, sir,
discuss-
that's consistent with the 8 findings of fact.
With the 8 findings of facts.
Absolutely. Okay, so, any discussion on the motion, council? Okay, I'll look to you for action. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. That motion carries. Thank you. We're working on it. Item 7.02, proposed text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance to include 4 housekeeping items: allowance for alternative plans, change to the review process. How are you, Ms. Brady?
I'm well. How are you?
Great.
Council has asked staff to bring text amendments to them twice a year in bundles. This is the same bundle of 7 items that were before you at your last work session. They moved on to the Planning Commission as a public hearing. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of all 7 of the text amendments. And so they are here before you tonight. As a public hearing, they were advertised as one public hearing, but there's 7 individual ordinances. So you can vote on them separately or as a bundle. As a side note, the UDO Task Force Committee has been formed and have begun looking at the code, and they will be reporting back to you quarterly on their findings. The first 4 items are housekeeping items. The first one is an accessory structure size allowance in the AR district. It makes sense if you have slightly larger lots in the AR district that you would be allowed to have an accessory structure that is slightly larger than would be allowed in SF10 or SF15. The second housekeeping item is temporary homeless shelters at churches. The North Carolina Building Code allows for this. They have very specific standards on how those have to be operated. So we wanted to amend the zoning code to reflect that. The one-way drive aisles and parking, we currently allow it, but there's no specific code in the ordinance that tells what the size of those have to be, regulate those. So we want to add that in. And then the last housekeeping item is to clarify that if you are building something on a state-maintained road, you do have to comply with NCDOT's request for right-of-way reservation or dedication. The next 2 items are to allow some flexibility in plan review. Currently, large retail development has an alternative facade plan, allows for an alternative facade plan. Staff would like to broaden that and allow it for all non-residential development. Currently, non-residential development has to meet 3 of the 6 design standards, and this slide lists those 6. The code currently allows alternative landscaping plans and alternative parking plans, so this would be an addition to allow for an alternative facade plan. It would allow for architects to have more creativity in their design, corporate designs. It would allow for small businesses and unique businesses to offer a variety of facade elevations. And it would allow for the consideration of the existing architecture in the area. The other alternative plan request is to broaden the alternative parking plan allowance. Currently, all over the city, development is allowed to ask for alternative parking plans, which would increase or decrease the number of their required parking spaces. We would like to broaden that to allow it in the transition standards as well. Currently, the transition standards only allow for a decrease in the number of parking spaces. And staff feels that those developments should be given the same consideration. Staff looks at the corporate requirements, the requirements unique to the specific type of business, and normally businesses will have some type of parking demand study that they can provide for us. The last text amendment proposal is to amend the definition of a major site plan. Amending that definition would change the number of reviews that have to go before the technical review committee. Currently, a major site plan is any non-residential building 2,500 square feet or more and multifamily development of 8 units or more. We would like to change that to 1,000 square feet, the building size, and 5 or more dwellings. In looking at the last couple of years, we have estimated that it would mean 5 to 10 more major site plans would go before the TRC, and currently some of those are already going to the TRC as a courtesy review. Developers and their design teams believe that it's easier for them to go to the TRC and meet with staff as a group versus having to contact the staff members individually, because at the TRC meeting there is staff members from zoning, planning, engineering, PWC, traffic services, and DOT. So a lot of times it's beneficial for them just to meet with that group individually. This slide just gives you an example of some of the uses that currently are not required to go to TRC. But these businesses could impact a site just as much as a business that's 2,500 square feet could. So we're asking for that text amendment as well.
Couple of questions for you.
I'm sorry, did you open and close the public hearing?
Not yet.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers for this?
No, we have no speakers for this item.
So at this time, we will open and close the public hearing. Were you complete?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Do have a few questions for you. Councilmember Crisp, Arp, and Waddell.
Yes, ma'am. My concern is 5, 6, and 7, and I have very simple questions. On the administration and the adjustments to the elevation and all, is that going to be easier on small businesses and businesses?
Well, I believe it will be easier for the elevation plans because it will give them more options. As far as the parking plan, currently any business throughout the city can ask for an alternative parking plan, except those businesses affected by the transition standards.
And I'm at number 6. My question was number 5, is it going to be easier? I think you said yes. Number 6, the parking. I can think of one case in point where they would have to request an alternative plan. That would be the Haymont Grill.
The Haymont Grill got a conditional zoning that took away some of their requirements.
But if I recall, the UDO required if they rebuild that they had to have a certain number of spaces, parking spaces on site, and the configuration of the property up there doesn't allow that. So this will give them an alternative to request parking somewhere else. Am I right?
They already have that option. We already have the option in the code for alternative parking plans.
I'm using that one as an example, and I know we've settled that one, but I'm just using it as an example where somebody has to rebuild and cannot do it with the required number of parking spaces as required by our UDO. Number 6 here gives them the option of requesting an alternative parking plan. Is that correct?
That is correct if they're affected by the transitional standards. They already have that option if they're not in the transitional standards portion of the code.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Chris. Councilmember Art.
Thank you,
James.
Mr. Mayor. Hey, Marcia, thank you for the presentation. I do have a question in regard to the site plan review process. We're going from a 2,500 square foot standard down to a 1,000 square foot standard. How many 2,500 square foot TRCs do you have a year?
How many
How many do y'all handle a year right now?
altogether?
Altogether.
We have normally maybe 40 to 50 actual cases, and part of those come through as pre-applications first. So probably at least 80, 75 to 80.
Yeah, so here's my concern. You just, if you go back to the slide where you have Jimmy John's and Hardee's, and you're going to change the standard. So these are examples of new businesses that weren't required to go through that process, but now these buildings and businesses will be required to go through. And I'm just concerned about a throughput. Can you handle the increased demand? And I think the idea that you're just going to have 10 a year might be a little bit low number. Is that a good assumption on my part?
Well, we looked at the building permits issued for the last 2 years for businesses under 2,500 square feet, and it ranged from 5 to 10. And some of those already come to TRC as courtesy reviews.
Was that part of the 80 number that you gave me, or is that in addition to the 80?
I would say it's probably in addition to.
Yeah, my only concern is, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, is I'm concerned that we're going to become bogged down. And one of the issues that I hear, the manager's saying no, but I hear all the time, we don't have enough staff to handle all the things we're trying to handle. This could become quite a significant burden as we move forward. And I don't think the last 2 years of data is good data, because we've kind of been in a down economy. Now we're back on the upswing of a good economy. You might want to look at a broader scope of numbers, because, again, once you pass this, now it's a requirement, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Art. Councilmember Waterdale. Mr. Manager, you have something to add to that?
Well, just to ask Marcia to describe maybe for some of the members of council about what the TRC, Technical Review Committee, does and how we believe that it would aid those people under 2,500 square feet. They still have the same requirements, but it allows the staff to provide, if you could describe that as well.
Yes, sir. Usually the people who are developing under 2,500 square feet a lot of times are the small builders or the people who don't develop often and really need that extra help getting them through the process. And that's why we do it as a courtesy currently, because it's much easier for them to come in and meet with all of the staff at one time, give them an overview of all the things they're going to have to do to move their project from beginning to end. So a lot of times those smaller businesses are the ones who really need that extra help.
Yeah, don't misunderstand the line of my question. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just want to make sure that we have the capacity that when we make this a requirement, that now we're not holding them up in their development timeline, because in their world, time is money. And the longer it takes for them to get approval of their plans through a process, the more money it costs them, and that can become prohibitive to our small business partners.
Thank you. So hopefully this is a good growing pain, Mr. Manager. Hopefully you'll have a lot of work to accommodate. Councilmember Waddell, and then Dawkins.
Thank you, Mayor Colvin. Ms. Bryant, you indicated that this did not come before or come from the newly formed UDO committee, correct?
That's correct. They've just begun looking at the UDO.
Okay, and you said that they'll report back to us quarterly, right?
That's what their charter indicates.
Okay, and are you familiar yet with who the individuals are on that committee, or are you unaware of that? I don't know if that's a question you can answer, or if...
No, I've been attending the meetings. Staff has been attending those meetings.
And Madam Waddell, I have asked over the weekend for the clerk to send out details on that. I was thinking that the meeting minutes were being tracked as the other minutes were being reported. But yeah, she'll send that to you.
Okay, so that is my question. I'd like to get a list of who is on that committee, and I guess when they started meeting, so we can know when the quarterly will be that we should expect to start hearing something from that committee. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Dawkins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Bryant, would this, like Murphy Express, Hardee's, Jimmy John's, would they be having to pay an additional $500, or, because I hear you using the term courtesy review, so what I don't want to do is put any more financial burden on these businesses.
Well, currently we've been doing it as a courtesy review, which is no charge. But if they come through the TRC process, officially through the TRC process, there is an application and a fee. For instance, the fee is $500 for the application and then $20 per 1,000 square foot. So the first one you would have a fee of $520. So it would be an extra fee.
So if we agreed to a number of $1,500, then those 4 or 1,500 square feet, those 4 wouldn't have to pay that $500 fee.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dawkins. Councilmember Jensen?
I just have I'm just sitting here listening to everything, and I'm not disagreeing, but I guess my question is, we have formed a new UDO committee, and we're bringing changes to the UDO, and we have not even heard from the committee. So I'm kind of questioning, are we setting them up for failure? Are we, if we're going to be making these changes, I feel that it needs to go through the committee, and the committee needs to come to us and weigh it out, is where I'm kind of leaning to.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about that, but I think before the committee actually had their first meeting, this came to a work session and some housekeeping items were identified. Is that right, Mr. Newton?
That's correct. In addition to that, the committee has specific charges of items that they're to be working on. These type of house cleaning activities are not within that character. So the council a year and a half or so ago said every 6 months, bring us items that you're seeing that are problematic. So that's what's happened. You had this happen in the fall. You looked at some of them, you passed some, and you didn't pass a few. And these are new items that have come up in the past 6 months.
Because I remember you brought to us during that same presentation that our UDO was our comprehensive land use plan, and you said so there are some inconsistencies that you identified right off the bat during the meeting.
There are going to be several items, and the committee has only had a total of 3 meetings. 2 of them were in formation, and one was starting to get down to business, which was last Thursday. These items are not the types of items, again, that they would typically look at. It's not the design of that, if you will, blue ribbon task committee.
I wasn't. I guess my question is, I'm a little bit confused of what the UDO committee is then, because I didn't know that they had met 3 times. And is that what I just heard?
Yes.
That they've met 3 times. And the council really doesn't know who's on the committee, and we're coming with a UDO change that we don't even know if the UDO committee has looked at. So I have a lot of questions of how this is all coming around, and if we have a UDO committee, I feel that it needs to go through them for them to vet it and then come present it to us. So I'm just really not feeling comfortable with this, whether I agree with it or not. If we're going to have a committee, I feel it needs to go through the committee.
So I think there's a couple different things going on. One is these specific items were requested and identified prior to the formation of this committee. Now, there were questions asked about the committee over the weekend, and it's been consistent with any other committees and appointments that have traditionally been done. So the communication barrier that the minutes were not being shared, I mean, we have a number of committees that we don't get the minutes from, but I think that problem was being resolved. But I think they have a specific charter, which Mr. Newton mentioned, that probably needs to be shared so that the council is fully abreast as to what the committee's roles are not. I admit that the timing of this is a little confusing because you're bringing UDO changes at the same time a committee is just getting stood up. So that may be a city manager question as to how this, how this is consistent with those two things, which will address some of the concerns. But have a lot of lights and a lot of questions, so you want to hit that? Okay.
If you'll allow me for a minute, the items that we have to you are house cleaning, and just like any spring or fall cleaning, you don't have to do it. There's nothing here that's pressing that you have to take action on, but it was from the city council that you said every 6 months, show up with something. That's what we're doing. If you don't want to do these, it's okay. If you want to run them through a different process, that's okay too. But we had a task, and we try to do what we're asked to do. So what you have in front of you are 7 items, as Marcia has indicated. You can act on them, you can table them, you can say, show up again, let the UDO take it on as an additional charge. That's up to you. It's okay with us, however you handle it, obviously.
All right. Okay, so I have a couple questions, and then I saw Councilmember Arp's light, which I'll circle back to him. I thought I saw, all right, I'm losing order here. So I think Councilmember Dawkins, you spoke, sir. So Councilmember Hare and spoke already. Waddell spoke and Jensen has spoke. All right, y'all, we'll go red lights from here on.
No, I haven't spoken, sir.
Okay, Councilmember Wright.
I hadn't spoken, sir.
Councilmember Hare and then Wright. And red lights going forward, guys.
Okay. And thank you, Mayor. Council, whichever direction that we decide to go with these items tonight, if it needs to come back before the UDO, even though this was set before we were already organized, that's fine. Being one of the council member liaisons of the UDO committee, after seeing all of the traffic concerning the committee on last week, I reached out to General Acott, who is our chairman, and asked him to give us a sort of like a little review of what our mission is, just a number of things. So he is putting that together, and that will be coming out to council soon. What our mission is, what our charge has been given, along with all of the committee members, and things along that line. Hopefully that would be very helpful to some of the questions that came up last week. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilmember Art. Oh, Chris, is that Chris and then Art?
Mr. Mayor, when we...
No, Mr. Chris is after Mo.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So the courtesy TRC review takes up staff time, effort, and it helps the applicant. So if we don't do this and make it mandatory, then I would suggest we quit doing courtesy TRC, Technical Review Committee reviews, unfortunately, that's going to make it harder. That means that applicant's going to come back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different times because all the committee members of the TRC aren't in the same room where that applicant could talk to them all at one time. Now they got to go to 5, 6 different offices. So if you're going to take staff time, do something that other people are paying for, then it's fair for everybody, or there's no more courtesy reviews. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Crisp and then Art.
Mr. Mayor, Council, when we instituted the UDO, the first month or two, Mr. Hare recalled, we made over 100 administrative changes, and we've continued to do that. And much of this, with the exception of 1 or 2, are simple administrative changes that don't really need to be vetted through the UDO committee. They're looking at the big picture,
yes.
The horses. These are small things. For example, the word existence could be exit in there. Would we give that to the UDO committee to make that correction? Certainly not. So most of these, as I looked at them, and my concern, I asked Ms. Bryant, is it going to be easier on the small business? Her response was yes. The alternative to request parking that's different than what the UDO required based on the footprint of the building you're making. and the kind of business you're running, how many parking spaces you gotta have. Well, the configuration of the property at times may not lend itself to those numbers of parking spaces. And yes, we want the business to be built, so we're gonna have to be bending a bit, as they are saying here, to work with them to get it done. So where they might be compelled to have 20 parking spaces, maybe we give them the authority to have 18. And we get a business on the books that's tax paying, okay? So much of this housekeeping stuff, I don't have a problem with it. The first 4, she said, were housekeeping items. I agree. I don't think we need to send that to the UDO committee and bog them down in that. The last 3, with the exception of the one that Councilman Ott was talking about, I don't have a problem with them bringing this kind of stuff that's minor in nature, with the exception of the technical review committee process, getting that stuff approved when they bring it to us, and let's move on.
UDO's a 700-page fluid document, and we hear all the time that it's hard to do business in Fayetteville. Councilmember Art?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, I agree with modification, and so I'm prepared to make a motion, but I do just want to speak to the site plan process. I didn't recall seeing the cost in there associated, the fee that was associated with the TRC. I just would ask in the future that we would include that. My concern is, the examples that we have up there, those are all franchise businesses. $500 is probably not an unreasonable amount. But if you're a small startup business with a 1,000 square foot building, $500 could be a lot of money. They may or may not want to pay that. I would highly recommend, as you said, Mayor Pro Tem, pay the money. It kind of helps you get expedited through the process. But again, you got to have the money to pay the money. So with that, I would make this motion that we accept 6 of the 7 proposed amendments, and those would be amendments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, accept. And then I would just like item 7 to come back to a work session with a little bit further discussion on that, so we can look at the impacts and the throughput.
Second.
There's a motion in a couple of seconds, but a motion by Councilmember Art to approve with those modifications. Second by Councilmember Jensen. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I'll look to you for action. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous.
Thank you, Council.
All right, Council, we're moving to item 7.03. It was brought to my attention that there is impending inclement bad weather, so we'll try to move this along. After 7.04, maybe we'll take a 5-minute break, restroom break, and then we'll get right back to it, so we can be considerate of our citizens. Mr. Stone, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Bringing before you is a request to close a portion of Shenandoah Drive. If you can see the map, Shenandoah Drive piece is between Bingham Drive and Hope Mills Road in the Aaron Lakes area. This piece that is being requested is on this end, and it's part of the Rick Hirma Foundation redevelopment plan. The request is to close. It's about a 184-foot piece of this road at the end. Again, the Rick Hirma Foundation made a request for this as part of their redevelopment. It'll be part of their new driveway as it accesses it. If you look at this, one of the things we'd like to point out that although these are dead-end pieces of this Shenandoah Drive, which also comes out to Redwood Drive, what happens if you do close this, it would make it more difficult in the future to make that connection later if the city did decide to try to make that connection through there. So one of the items that we mentioned, if you're looking at your packet, was although again, there's no plans to make the connection now, there's no long-term plan. We did have Chief Majors look at this as far as the fire response, and there was it would show an improvement if in the future that connection was made. It would be offer a reduction in the response time in the area for emergency services. And Chief's here if you have any questions about that. The closure itself would not affect any other property owners, would not landlock anyone in the area, and would not actually have an effect. The closure itself would not have an effect on current times, but however, if it was closed, it would make it more difficult in the future to make a connection, and that, again, may affect it in the future if that decision was made to push that forward.
Madam Clerk, we have any speakers?
Yes, sir. We have 3 speakers.
Okay. Have they sworn in?
They don't need to be. It's not a special use.
All right. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, if you can call your first speaker.
Yes, sir. Our first speaker is Mr. Sam Barnett.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Do appreciate the opportunity this evening to come before you in consideration for our petition to close a small portion of Shenandoah Drive. As the clerk mentioned, I'm Sam Barnett, retired Sergeant Major of 25 years in the United States Army. I also happen to have the honor and pleasure of serving as the president of the Rick Harriman Foundation. We're seeking approval to close this small portion of Shenandoah Drive in order to continue the process to develop our site. What do we intend to do at the Rick Harriman Foundation, what we will call Rick's Place? That is to be a platform for military families to engage in quality outdoor activities in a well-structured environment, in a low-stress environment, for them to be able to come out and build those familiar relationships that will make them stronger, that will allow them to thrive into the future. We also want that to be a platform where they can engage each other as a family, other family members who are going through this same level of stress that has been continuous over 2 decades of war, as well as members of the local community who would seek to engage with them as well and strengthen those ties. We firmly believe that building a strong military family will lead to a strong military altogether and then a strong nation. Look forward to any comments or suggestions that you may have in order to help us facilitate this. But again, we would like to continue closing that end of Shenandoah Drive, which is a small, unimproved gravel portion of Shenandoah Drive, will allow us to continue with the process of improving the site. What the next step is to seek your concurrence and approval of our site plan, whereby which once we achieve that, we can establish our parking lot, and we've already got a bridge that links the northern and southern portion of our property. Once we do that, we'll have a great way for the military families and the visitors to our site to be able to get into the site, park, access the Harriman House, which are our administrative offices, and also the southern portion of our property over our bridge, which was an Eagle Scout project that was executed by one of the Eagle Scouts here locally. Again, looking forward to any questions you may have on this. I'll be followed by our Executive Director, Allegra Jordan.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Gordon Rose.
My name's Gordon Rose. I live at 7933 McCartans Ford in Linden, and my office is here on Donaldson Street in downtown Fayetteville. I've been volunteering with and working with the Rick Harriman Foundation for the past, what's it been, 4 years now, trying to develop these plans. They have a multi-phase plan to do exactly what Mr. Barnett has described. I understand Mr. Stone's position regarding the extension of the road. However, Shenandoah Drive and Redwood Drive do not line up correctly. There is an offset in those 2 roads. Redwood Drive at the end is an unimproved road. In fact, it's an overgrown right-of-way at best. As Mr. Barnett described, even Shenandoah Drive is an unimproved road. There is gravel down there that the residents have put in because it's not up to city standards. If you built a road across to connect the 2, it wouldn't be a road, it would be a bridge of several hundred feet long. That crosses Beaver Creek. Y'all all know what happened during Hurricane Matthew when Beaver Creek flooded. You'd be impacting wetlands, majority of that would be in a floodway, so it would have to be a bridge and raised so as not to impound water and create further flooding upstream. I don't know what the city estimates are, but I think you're looking at a multi-million-dollar project to build a bridge across that creek. I believe those dollars could be better spent trying to improve the roads within the neighborhoods to get them up to city standards, or helping PWC acquire the water system in that area to bring the water flow and pressure up to city standards as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Mayor, our final speaker is Ms. Allegra Jordan.
Hello, Ms. Jordan.
Hello,
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and City Council people. I come before you as a pretty new person to Fayetteville. I came with the project, and this is my second time in this room. When I walked in, I was blown away by that picture of no safe haven, because that's exactly the reason I'm here. People like Sam and Kathy, his wife, are national assets. They're silent professionals, so they don't talk about it, but we work with the people in that picture, No Safe Haven, and what they ask is, would you please take care of my kids? And when I come back, may I please have a place to return to my family so that we can be together? That's the safe haven that Rick Harima Foundation provides. We did a recent survey with our users, and this is what they said. Thank you all for all you do to keep Rick's Place available to military families and friends. It's truly a special place. Thank you for working so hard to accomplish the mission of Rick's Place. It is one of the highlights of living in the Fayetteville-Fort Bragg area. Our budget's about $1 million a year. We hire 3 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. We look to raise $4 million to improve the area. All of this money comes from out of the state for the most part, and it goes into the state. It's spent here with local businesses. For the most part overall. We have 500 visits annually, and that includes our work with the Cumberland County Schools so that all military families there, including those with special needs, can come and play at our park. We're also working with the Aaron Lakes for National Night Out, and we invite you to come and visit our neighborhood then. I'm going to close with a quote from Professor Darren Knapp, a PhD at UNC. He's in charge of leadership development for research at UNC Chapel Hill. And he recently said, "You at Rick's Place are neuroscientists in an important way. Your work surely impacts favorably on the mental health of your families as much or more than anything arising from our neuroscience research labs or clinics now and in the foreseeable future. And you are doing it in a naturalistic, intentional, approachable, and more comprehensive way where a completely mechanistic explanation of its benefits is unknown and perhaps unknowable. We are changing the future, and people are taking notice of what we're doing at Rick's Place. We ask that you keep it a safe haven. Let's close the road. We love the fire department. We'll work with them, but please make it a safe haven for wonderful people who just want a place, a safe haven to return to their family. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have no further speakers.
So with that, we'll close the public hearing. I do have a couple questions, probably for staff. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. So when you look at, like Mr. Rose said, the alignment, Shenandoah, Redwood, from Lafayette Village over, the city couldn't build a road or improvements without eminent domain of some of the very property where they have their organization set up, because the portion of Shenandoah that goes in, right there in the property, dead ends before it hits the city property in the middle before it gets to Lafayette Village. And looking at our long-range transportation plans, looking at our Powell bill money, there's been no discussion ever of potentially spending X amount of dollars to connect those 2 neighborhoods and then take eminent domain and take some of the very property that would cut their property almost in half where it's already a property line. Would that be a true statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Chris?
Mr. Mayor, I need to say this. Why Rick Herrera? I'll tell you why. They didn't say it, but I'll say it. He gave it all. He gave it all. He didn't come home walking, all right? And here is a foundation that's trying to do something for service members and retirees and veterans to help them cope with the stresses that come about from war. You heard the Sergeant Major in his presentation. You heard Mr. Gordon tell you that those 2 roads don't line up and that it will cost a fortune if we could ever get the Corps of Engineers to let us span that creek. There's no utility in spanning it. As you can see, Redwood can come out onto Oak Mills Road directly to a major thoroughfare. There is no easy way to get out of the southern portion or the western portion of Shenandoah. So unless there's other questions from council, I would move that we close I move to approve the closing of that portion of Shenandoah on the west side as requested by the Rick Herrera Foundation.
Second.
So a motion by Councilmember Chris to approve the closing of Shenandoah Drive, a second by Councilmember Wright. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I'll look to you for action. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, Council, item 7.04. Mr. Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council again. As you recall, this item was on your consent agenda last month and was pulled for a public hearing this evening. Since that time, staff has worked with the developer applicant of this property to get some additional conditions that we think make this project more viable. While we worked with the applicant, we realized that the river plan is very important to the city, and so with that, that's what we looked at with these new conditions, was things that would help to satisfy what the intent of the original river plan was, or still is. One, it was changed to a conditional CC district. It is CC now, but the additional conditions, as I said, will help ensure, the river and the quality of the water in it. So the conditional zoning, we feel, matches the zoning that's currently out there and is called for in the river plan, which you have to understand the river plan is a huge area. It encompasses 11 miles of river frontage from the northern end of our jurisdiction to the southern end. We think it also fits with the existing land uses that are out there. That this will, again, protect the Cape Fear River. It'll allow a new business to come into this vacant property. Part of the conditions that they are looking to do is they will restrict the repairs that are done on the property to inside the existing garage, restrict their hours of operation, maintain vegetative buffers around the whole property. You'll see those in a few minutes. Ensure that repairs are only done to vehicles owned by the company that will be there on site. No bringing in of vehicles from other companies to repair. And also some additional things to help protect the view shed on Middle Road so that you don't see what's happening on the property as much. As we move through here, I'm sorry, So I know all of you are familiar with the location of this particular property. It is located at the intersection of Middle and Dunn Roads. We did have a special use permit for selling mini storage out here a few years ago that was approved. It never actually happened. The building out here is equipped and was used for several years for the repair of tractor trailers. And if I showed you some of our older aerials, you would see a lot of tractor trailers around this particular property. Currently is commercial out there, zoned and types of use. As you can see, there's other heavy commercial in that area, along with some industrial properties like the one just immediately to the south. In our Cape Fear River overlay plan, it does call for this to be a business center area, and if you look on the attached set of uses, they're allowed in that CC district, which is already own this property, you'll see that that is an intensive list of businesses that are already allowed out there. As I said, once again, the building is, the garage is already set up to do larger equipment. That is what is necessary for Horn Brothers at this point. Aerial view, if you'll take note of all of the heavy vegetation around the property, that vegetation is going to be left as part of this project, and you'll see in a moment where they're adding more vegetation in as well. So on their conceptual site plan, I'll just start here toward the river, and as part of the river overlay plan, they are required to have a 100-foot buffer from the riverbank, and that's this line that you see right here. Their kind of development line is what you see a little in the red through here. But as I said a while ago, if you note, all of this area and all this area back here and around will still be heavily wooded. In addition to that, again, the garage, this existing, is in the middle of the property, so it's not, it could be a lot closer to the river than what it is. The owners are looking to put in a row here of Leland cypresses to block the view coming down Middle Road in this direction, and then another row of landscaping here along Middle Road to buffer the visual impact looking into the site as well. Again, these are the conditions that I kind of went over just a moment ago that they are looking to do on the property to help preserve the water quality and to stay in keeping with the river overlay plan. Portion of this property will be used for storing, servicing construction equipment, and it'll be limited to their designated areas that you just saw on the plan. All the other uses that are already allowed in the CC will remain. The property will maintain a 50-foot vegetated buffer along their northern property line, adjacent to the residentially zoned property. Accessory storage area will be limited to designated gravel yard again, like you saw in the conceptual plan. And only their fleet of vehicles will be maintained at this site, no other vehicles. The outside storage area will also be designed to be screened from general public street views. The repairs, again, will be limited to inside the existing building garage. That's to help assist with any mitigation of potential environmental hazards. And hours of operation would be limited Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and on Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Property owners will also maintain, as I showed you a moment ago, the required 100-foot buffer from top of bank there in the that flows along the river. The city staff, planning staff, does recommend approval to this more restrictive CC conditional zoning. The proposed rezoning, we feel, is consistent with prior actions of the City Council to identify this portion of the city as appropriate for community commercial development. Property again, was originally built for heavy truck repairs. Cape Fear River Plan calls for commercial uses. However, many of the properties within close proximity to this one currently are used for industrial or storage purposes. The property is mostly surrounded by heavy commercial and heavy industrial zoning and uses. And this conditional rezoning, again, is based on those conditions that we just read. That concludes the staff's presentation at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Madam Clerk, we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor, we have 3 speakers. Our first speaker, sorry.
They did. At this time, we'll open the public hearing.
Our first speaker is Mr. Scott Brown.
Mr. Brown, welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Scott Brown. My office is 409 Chicago Drive, Suite 112 here in town. I'm not going to repeat what Mr. Harmon just said. He did an excellent job of summarizing where we're at to date. As you are aware, it was pulled last month with concerns, and I think a primary concern being the Cape Fear River overlay. And on that map that was presented to you initially, or initial site plan, did not have the 100-foot buffer on it. So since it was pulled last month to this month, we did have an environmental consultant meet with city engineering staff on site. The top of bank was flagged on site. We had a survey crew go out and measure it, and we have, so that line is accurate based on the consultant and from concurrence with the City of Fayetteville engineering staff. And as you can see from the site plan, that we are outside of the 100-foot setback, and as Mr. Harmon mentioned, the owner has agreed to some additional conditions as far as some additional landscaping. But for the most part, the site plan is very similar to exactly what it was last month, with the exception of showing the 100-foot setbacks on it for the buffer. As you can see from aerial photographs, a lot of the site has got gravel on it, and we are going to expand that gravel area inside of the fenced area proposed, and there will be some additional gravel beyond what's extended out there now, and we're going to treat that with a storm pond, as you can see, an infiltration basin that is also located outside of the 100-foot setback. And we are in the process now of going through reviews with the city staff. We have done our initial submittal and got review comments back from city stormwater, but we were waiting on how this all was going to turn out. Like I said, we are in the process of trying to get that approved, and we would appreciate a thumbs up from you tonight so that we can move forward, because like I said, this area is needed. Right now, this operation is located in Roseboro, and Horn Brothers would like to move that operation back into the city. They have an office off of Middle River Loop Road where they keep a lot of their equipment at, but they wanted a place to be able to service equipment. That's why we're here before you tonight, because we're not able to service equipment under the general CC zone, and the conditional zone, and will allow us to serve it, and our primary use will be servicing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Mr. Charles Horn.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name's Charles Horn. I'm one of the owners of the business, and won't reiterate what has been said already, but would urge you to consider this and approve it for rezoning. And I'm here really simply to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Horn.
Mayor, our final speaker is Mr. Robert Van Gaines.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This suit doesn't do well in the rain, so I will truncate my comments. But thank you for this opportunity to speak before you. As your economic developer, I am charged with my team to recruiting new businesses, expanding existing companies, focusing specifically on expanding our economy. As our elected officials, you are required to balance an array of concerns. So while this is an opportunity to help an existing company grow in our community, one with a 60-plus year track record here, I hope that you'd agree that the revised proposal provides safeguards ensuring that other potential concerns are addressed. Just a few other items to add. They do have an excellent track record as an employer here in this community. As mentioned, it would allow them to consolidate operations here, bringing hundreds of jobs in the growing green energy economy to our community. And I think not to be missed. It's a chance to reuse and revitalize a vacant building that, quite frankly, is not a typical prospect for our economic development projects. Having a local company is one of the best ways to see that reused. And they're intent on being a good neighbor. Hopefully they've shown that through this process by adding restrictions and other assurances to protect the community. And I know that they're happy to answer any questions you have, and thank you for considering this.
Well, Robo, because you spoke, I've got 10 lights on. I'm kidding. Mr. Skeleton.
You like that look? You did. You got. I will say, Mayor, you did get me on that one. That's, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't catch his name.
Robert Van Gien.
All right. Councilmember Cullerton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Wait a minute. Have you closed the public hearing, sir?
It's time we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Cullerton. Councilman Cullerton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this one's important to me for two reasons. One, it's in my district. It's District 2. Number two, I care about our waterway, our river. It's a huge asset we have. We need to protect it. We need to develop it, but we need to protect it. Horn Brothers, my understanding, is really into solar and green energies, environmentally conscious, and I think we need that, especially with what's going on currently with our waters. I think that this group has great potential to bring jobs here, as Mr. Van Goens has said, and that the industries that those jobs pertain to, I think, are something that we could all appreciate and benefit from. This group has a great potential to bring a number of jobs, not only now, but in the future, and I think we need to pay attention to that. They're also hometown guys. These folks are from Fayetteville. They're wanting to do business here. They're wanting to bring their business back here, and we need to pay attention to that as well. They're improving this site, in my opinion. They're taking the current use to one that is a little bit more congruent with our overall strategic plan. They're putting things in. They have a 100-foot buffer from our river, protecting that. They are putting investments in that I think demonstrate the social conscious development that we are striving for. So with that, I don't want to end anybody's discussion on this, but I would make a motion to approve this item 7.04 as presented by staff. That's correct.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Has split seconds, but I think Councilmember Arp had initially seconded that. Thank you, Councilmember Dawkins. So we have a motion by Councilmember Cullerton to approve, second by Councilmember Arp. Any discussion on the motion? Councilmember Dawkins.
Well, I wanted to thank Mr. Horn. I've known his family all my life. Thank you for being willing to move an operation from Sampson County to Fayetteville, North Carolina. It means a lot. The impact that your additional jobs is going to have with the multiplier effect of money is going to be huge. And thank you for arranging for this 100-foot buffer so we can keep our pristine river safe. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I plan on supporting this.
Thank you. All right. Council, any further discussion? All right. Look to you for action. All right, Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. All right, Council, we've got one more item. Mr. Van Gien has concerns with his suit, so let's move it right along.
Well, he don't have to speak. Give him one of them bags.
All right. Item 8.01, the adoption of ordinance amending city charter to change the mode of elections and a resolution supporting a referendum. So, Madam Attorney, would you like to come and briefly explain this familiar item?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item, the Council has on several occasions discussed changing the mode of election from 2-year to 4-year terms. Recently, the Council held a public hearing on the matter, and this item is before you to adopt the resolution, which would place this item on the November ballot for consideration by the voters.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Do you have a light? Councilmember Hare.
Just for clarification for me, Ms. Attorney, is the recall in this
No, sir.
description?
No, sir.
All right, so we've got a couple of lights and so council, just want to, for clarification purposes, we've talked about this. This has been an impending item. Many of us have gone on radio shows, so forth, and said that this is merely to allow the people to make a decision once and for all, not the city council. Although statute gives us provisions to do that, the council, on many occasions, this vote pertains to placing it on the ballot for November. But Madam Attorney, if I'm not mistaken, there's a timeline in order for that to happen, and that is what date?
In talking to the Board of Elections, Ms. Terry Robertson, they would need the item by August the 1st so that they can lay out the ballot for the upcoming.
Council, since this is our last meeting before August the 1st, this will require an up or down decision to either allow the people to vote on this or to discontinue the conversation. So I do have a couple of lights. Councilmember Cullington and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand a recall wasn't in it. Is there a provision in there as to when this would take effect? Would it be this council's term, the next council's term?
It would be, if the voters were to approve this in November, then it would become effective for the 2019 election.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to make a motion if it's okay, but before I do that, no matter how the vote comes out, whether it passes or not in November, I think this city council should still move forward preparing to work with our local delegation for recall elections. We could get that language put into our charter next year when they have their long session, whether it's a 2-year term or a 4-year term. So I think we're all going to be together between now and then, hopefully. But so I think we still need to pursue that in the long session coming up. So the motion would be to adopt the resolution, and to have this put on the ballot for this coming November.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilmember Wright. Any discussion on the motion? I see a couple of, are those votes or?
For discussion.
Oh, okay, all right. So I saw Councilmember Hare, Dawkins, Waddell, and Jensen.
Thank you, Mayor. As I do support, as always, sending items to our citizens, and I heard what the Pro Tem just said. Help me understand, did I miss some discussion why the recall was not a part of this? Just for my clarification, because apparently it's, or maybe the attorney or whoever.
Right. It was actually 2 separate actions. The General Assembly are the only ones with the authority about the recall. Okay. And they're about to convene for the short session, so there was no time to put it on there.
I simply forgot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Dawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While I'm not in favor of 4-year terms, I do support letting the people decide. And I know there's some other council members that may feel the same way. But I think that this is since 1789, 17, whenever I know 89 was when the Constitution was ratified, but it's been 2-year terms. It may be time to consider 4, and I'll support the motion. Let the people decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dawkins. Councilmember Waddell.
Thank you, Mayor Colvin. I take a bit of a different position in that I do think that the people should have the ability to decide. However, I feel that there should be the assurance for the people that we have moved forward with a recall provision. I am very empathetic to the situation that we recently found ourselves in, and I just think that that is the right thing to do. And I wonder what the haste is, given there will be another election there will be another opportunity to put it on another ballot before we are out of office, because there will be another November that will come, and there will be another June or July that we will still be seated and able to move this initiative forward with some of those assurances in place. And so, you know, I've been very consistent in the fact that I think that this needs to be a two-part process. And I think that we have rushed past, and I think we did it in error. We moved past the time frame of being able to get that information to the General Assembly for that decision to be made. And I think that we are moving this at a rate that, for me, just does not signify that we are necessarily all very serious about putting forward that recall provision to them for consideration.
Thank you, Councilmember Waddell. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Waddell. Even though that I do believe that we should send it to the people and it is their decision, without the recall, I just think it's messy. And I think what we have gone through, that we are rushing through it. So I support sending it to the people, but I cannot support sending it to the people until we have the recall provision in place.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. Councilmember Arp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been pretty adamant I'm not in favor of 4-year terms, but, you know, I don't want to be an impediment to whatever the consensus of the council comes out to be. I would say this: if the decision tonight is to go forward with an affirmative vote for 4-year terms, I think it would be prudent that we agree as a body that one of our first items of business in August would be the drafting and approval of a resolution to the General Assembly that highlights the fact that we want to revisit the charter so that we have the ability to remove a member that's consistent with the actions of that member that would require their removal, and that be a part of our charter, regardless of 2 or 4-year terms. I think that's something that we would all agree to. But if we're going to move forward with a vote on 4-year terms tonight, I think we simultaneously need to agree that resolution will be our first piece of business in August.
Sounds good.
Well said, sir. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I agree that we should have a resolution for election recall. We've been kicking this can down the road since, I think, 13, and we've been talking about whether it's a good idea for 4-year terms or no. And I love the idea that we should submit this to the voters, that the voters would have a voice, and they will determine whether it's a good idea or not. I have a lot of concerns about 4-year, 2-year terms, and it's too lengthy for me to even talk about tonight, but I think I'm going to share that on some level, why I think that it's powerful to have a 4-year term. But I do agree with the recall with Jim that we unanimously decide to do a resolution for a recall. But tonight is only the vote for us to send it to the people, that the people might have a voice. And we say the people are the voice. We say we are the voice of the people. And this is a great opportunity to let the people speak.
Thank you, Councilmember Wright. And we'll wrap it up with this. Earlier tonight, the elder statesman on this dais, and I was corrected online. I used the word dais, but dais, I understand. Said tonight that he had a problem with the 10 of us making a decision for 200,000 plus people. And but that was on an item that we did not have a choice as to where it went to the people or not. This is the exact same thing, but we do have a choice. We have a choice to send it to the people. Now, the 10 of us can decide if it should be 2, if it should be 4. We will have to agree that we will abide by the rule and the decision that the people make, but I think they should be allowed to make their decision. And so with that being said, tonight, it's an up or down vote of whether to move this forward or to...
I got My light's on.
Oh, right. Yes, sir, Elder Station.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a concern, and that is the message that we send to our legislative delegation. If we're split, it's not going to be a good message to them. I have to agree with Councilwoman Waddell that I think that we need to hold on this and proceed with the request to the legislature for the recall provision. And we are united in that. All 10 of us have expressed at some point that we want to amend the city charter to include a recall provision. I don't want us to come out with a split vote here tonight, which is going to happen on this, and then we have to say that to the legislature. Okay? I think we can delay this until after we have sent forward our request to the legislature for the recall provision, and we've got plenty of time to vote on the 4 years. I'm in favor of allowing the voters to make the decision on the 4 year, but I don't want to jeopardize us getting a recall provision out of the General Assembly by us showing split votes down here on the things that we have the authority to approve. That's my statement. Thank you.
All right, so we need a motion. We've got a couple of rounds, but guys, we need to either make a motion to table, deny, or approve. Councilmember Wright, second round.
Yeah, second round on discussion.
Oh, so yeah, okay. So we have a motion on the floor, and this is the second round of discussion. Yeah. So we have Councilmember Wright and then Colleton.
I just wanted to say maybe a question to the city attorney or city manager, as far as going to the House with a unanimous decision on this particular item wouldn't matter because we have the power to vote or to just make a decision to do it without the vote of the people. But we decided that we were going to give it to the people so the people would vote. Now, the election recall is a total different item. And so, of course, we should be unanimous on the election recall to send up to the state, and that unanimous decision will be the decision that they decide that, okay, we're going to give it to them because it's unanimous. They handle that. We handle the local piece with whether we do a 4 or whether we don't, whether we send it to the people or we don't. We decided, and that's all this vote is tonight, is that we're going to decide to send this vote to the people. And so it's two separate events here. The recall is separate from the vote, and that's all we're doing. And I believe that if we send that unanimous decision to do a recall, that the House will give us that no problem. I really believe that. So I don't understand what's the holdback of sending this to the people, because we're going to get it eventually anyway as far as the recall if we send that up, and that will be unanimous. And that's all I have to say. I don't know.
Going to Mr. Cullington, I just have a question for the city attorney before we do that. Could there be a dual action to where also after this was decided that a resolution or the direction to draft a resolution could be wrapped up in the same motion? Madam Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, I was going to actually
propose that. Okay.
And I was going to ask the attorney, what we're asking for is that we would approve amending the city charter to change the mode of election for the city council to 4-year terms and adoption of a resolution calling for a referendum to submit for a vote by the people. Could we also add a resolution calling for an amendment to the City of Fayetteville charter to provide a recall provision?
That was my question.
To the General Assembly.
Right, two separate.
That's correct.
Okay.
Then let's do it, guys, ladies.
All right, we have Mr. Cullington and Mr. Arpit already got his in. Councilman Cullington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not to echo too loudly what I'm hearing from the other council members, but I think we're all in agreement for a recall election provision, and I think we're all in agreement that the people should have the opportunity to vote instead of us. My issue is that I don't know why we can't wait to make sure that we truly are giving the people the choice, not just half a choice. So if the people are to have the choice, then I don't think they should be forced to vote on only a part of this. They should be forced to vote, or they should be given the opportunity to vote on the complete package, because there's no telling that the other part will come to fruition or not. And so I can't support this unless we have the combination of those two elements that we all seem to be agreeing on. Further, if we have the opportunity to not kick the can down the road, but to wait until we can have that accomplished, I don't see that we've lost any ground and we've truly given the people the opportunity to choose.
Thank you, Councilman Culleton. Madam Attorney, I see your light flash.
Mayor, I just wanted to clarify that this is a two-part process in terms of there is no opportunity for a referendum as to the recall provision. Right. Mayor Pro Tem Moan, I think, said it earlier this evening. That is solely within the purview of the General Assembly. What is in your purview and what you all have rightly pointed out is whether you want to take to a referendum the change in the terms for council.
Thank you for that clarification. And it should be noted that if the General Assembly opens up the charter and calls recalls, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, you still have the ability to recall after that point. So I don't think that really changes the scope of the decision.
Unless they elect not to.
Right, unless they elect not to. All right, Council. Councilmember Waddell.
Thank you, Mayor Colvin. I want to be very clear. I understand what we're asking for. I understand that they're two separate issues, and I also understand that one is not contingent upon the other. But I want to make sure that everybody understands what I'm saying in terms of how I'm making this decision. I do believe that the people have a right to make the decision. And I also believe that the people have a right to know that if they make a decision that in the end ends up backfiring, they have a recourse of action. And we are saying what you're asking for those of us who are saying that to vote on tonight is, let's put it on the ballot. It may or may not pass. And we'll go back and ask, and that may or may not happen either. And I've heard many of us say that we don't like working with a bunch of unknowns. And so I would like a guarantee. Whether they say yes or no to a recall, I would like to know that we've moved that forward. And I feel like we are rushing this. We are not taking our time and doing our due diligence, and we have another opportunity before any of us is out of office, provided we all live to see the next election cycle. And so this is not a no, and I am giving you my word tonight that barring any unforeseen circumstances, if we move forward with the recall provision, I don't have a problem at all with voting in the affirmative for giving this to the people and letting them decide whether or not we get 4 years. And I'm on record saying that. So I just don't, the question is being asked, I don't understand what the hesitation is. The hesitation is, I personally have been asking for this since the conversation started. It has been overlooked, it's been neglected, and now here we are, and my position has not changed. And I just want to be very, very clear about that.
Thank you, Councilmember Waddell. Before we go to Councilmember Dawkins, it should be noted that I don't think it was overlooked. The attorney had to tell us what items could go on the ballot and what could not. And so as she researched that during the sessions, it was explained to us that the General Assembly would be required for a portion of this, and the other part could be handled by referendum. So I just want to clarify that, but I think we've talked about it extensively. Councilmember Dawkins.
Thank you. Let's not forget that we always have that process of a motion, which is the process that we started, that caused some different things to happen, and eventually we now have Councilman Culleton. So I support this motion.
All right. Discussion phase is over. All right, Council, look to you for action. This is, y'all want to restate that motion? It's been such a long time. Mayor Pro Tem, the Moan Wright motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, the motion was to amend the charter through a voter referendum, should it pass in November, to go to 4-year terms and to adopt a resolution calling for such. And then Councilmember Arp asked that we also put in there that in addition, we will move forward with a resolution, a separate resolution, asking the General Assembly to allow for us to have a recall provision, and that doesn't matter whether it's 2 or 4 year terms. Did I get your part right there?
Yeah, and just for clarity, our vote tonight would be a vote for that as well.
Right, so we're voting for both. So before the end of this year, we would already have something for the General Assembly and the citizens would vote.
Discussion phase is over. Okay, so that's
I second that.
all right. All right, council. Look to you for action. Everybody voted. Yep. All right, Madam Clerk, that is 6-4. Voting in favor, Councilmember Arp, Wright, Colvin, Moan, Hare, and Dawkins. Those voting in opposition, Crisp, Cullington, Jensen, and Waddell. Motion carries. All right. So move.
I think we all can agree on that one.